All right, we're back with Right to Life Radio and our own Linda Talia for our first Saturday of the month stories from the sidewalk. And Linda was sharing with us one really great story about interacting with a woman who was in a very difficult situation. And we talked with her. She wants to choose life for her baby after she had several other children that she wasn't able to keep. We now have an interesting situation, a conversation you had with a woman who had conceived her twin children in a circumstance of sexual assault, and sort of her thoughts on it. So maybe share that story with us, Linda. So how did you meet this woman, by the way?
Oh, she was just walking down the street, and I offered her a flower, and she took the flower, and she said,
was she going into Planned Parenthood?
Yeah.
She was? Okay.
Yeah, she said she was just going in for a pap smear. That's what she said.
Yeah.
I don't know who knows?
Yeah.
I think she was honest.
Mm-hmm.
And so she said, oh, what's the flower? That was the person that I said, what do you want to give me a flower for?
Yeah, why are you offering me a flower?
Just so we can talk.
Yeah.
And so she said, well, I really appreciate what you're doing. I think it's important. I think it's good. Mm-hmm. But I also see the other side. And I said, okay. She goes, well, so are you saying that you are against Planned Parenthood? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, or against abortion.
Against abortion.
Yeah, against abortion. And I said, well, I don't know whether I would put it that way. Like, that's my platform. But
yeah, you're here to offer an alternative to people seeking abortion.
Because I don't think that's a great direction to start with. I'm against one.
I mean, if you're leading off, if you're leading off with a scared 20-year-old who's pregnant and doesn't know what to do, to say abortion is evil and dignity, and say no, you're saying, do you want help? Do you want resources? Do you want alternatives to abortion? Yeah.
So she said, well, what about in the instance of rape? And it keeps coming up and coming up. And I said, well, that's always the fallback.
Right. And it's frustrating to me because a little bit frustrating to me, just because it's such a rare, in taking the whole body of all abortions that happen in America, that 99% of them are not because of cases of rape, and yet people talk about instances of rape as justifying almost as if it justifies the other 99%.
Yeah.
And certainly I think we could talk about it's important to talk about that 1% of people are not insignificant people and are important people, and it's important to be able to talk with them and think and reason and empathize with them. But yeah, that's always a difficult thing when discussing abortion, is that people revert to that as if that justifies the other 99% of abortions. So anyway.
I just started thinking of the percentage throw out 1%. So think of the things in life where someone said, well,
1%
you shouldn't do that because 1% of people who do that.
In 1% of car accidents, a seatbelt is a bad idea, and it unduly restrains you. Well, but the other 99% of the time, the seatbelt's saving your life, So, yeah.
So, I mean, I can't think of any really good ones right now that I just started thinking about, though. But 1% in any other situation is like, who cares?
Now, so this woman comes to you and asks about a case of rape because she herself had conceived her children.
Yeah, so she says, well, I was raped. And I said, well, I'm really sorry. I'd be interested in hearing your story. And she said, well, I was raped. And I said, what were your circumstances? Because I talk up to girls and women about this and about what is happening. Why is rape happening so frequently? And why aren't we doing anything about rape? And then I talked about how, with the school districts in California, you can be 11 years old or 12 years old and go to Planned Parenthood and come back.
Have an abortion with no one, without your parents knowing about it, et cetera. And any 12-year-old being pregnant is definitionally has been raped.
I know what I was saying. I was saying, well, Planned Parenthood sort of protects the rapist.
Right.
I mean, you're walking into a place that protects the rapist. I mean, think about the extreme. If you've got a pimp who has some prostitutes and somebody gets pregnant or STI, whatever, he's saying, get in there and get this taken care of and then get back out in here.
Right.
And if you have been in a situation where you're in a fear situation, you're not going to tell.
Sure.
So this is a free reign place.
Right.
If you want to be a pervert, you want to be a pimp, you want incestual stuff going on, this is your perfect place.
And that's the thing with abortion definitionally is kind of eliminating some evidence of, if and presumably women in that situation, especially if they're being coerced or something, they can be kind of coached to say,
Yeah.
Say the right thing so no alarm gets triggered or
Yes.
whatever, and
Like,
maybe
you better get in there.
Yeah.
Or, whatever. I'm
or
going to kill you. Doesn't
whatever.
matter.
Yeah.
So that's when she said, I was actually raped by a family member.
Mhm.
And I was like, ugh, that is so horrible. What can we do to stop this? And then she started talking. She goes, so the thing is, I can see your side and I support you. I think what you're doing is good, but I also understand the other side because
Mhm.
if I'm talking to someone and they're in that same rape situation, I can't say, okay, well, don't have an abortion.
Mhm.
So I kind of wanted her to talk through it to hear, like, how did you get to that?
Right.
I mean, this person has twins. They're
Yeah.
8 years old. It's not like it's new.
Yeah.
They're 8 years old. And she just said, well, I said, anyway, how'd you get through this? And she said, a lot of counseling and support from my mom. And I said, well, it's interesting that you say your mom, because almost all the girls that I've talked to who are considering abortion, the person they're afraid to tell is their mother. She goes, yeah, it definitely was.
Mhm.
And she goes, I just happened to sit down and she just happened to say, like, you want to have this baby? We'll
Mhm.
love it
Yeah.
like any other baby.
Yeah. Well, and in so many of these cases, I mean, even with, the person we were talking with before,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a lack of support is
Mhm.
often the thing that's, lack of security factors. So not having a good network of family or friends or
Yeah.
people to help you. And in this woman's case, because she had her mom being
Yeah.
supportive,
Well,
she
and
was
she
able
said,
to do it.
at first we didn't really have a great relationship. And as I went through this, it got better.
Yeah.
And the thing that I really keep seeing is shame.
Mhm.
Because even if you have a network, we do
Sure.
a terrible job as a community of women and men supporting or not supporting women
Mhm.
of supporting pregnancy,
Yeah.
life. Like, we think that if you get pregnant, there's something shameful about it.
Yeah.
And why? Why does that happen? Anyway, so
Anyway.
she kept going, and I said, the thing that I think is not right is that we, because of the way the media portrays everything,
Mhm.
the pro-choice, pro-life, we don't have an opportunity to dialogue. And I think that's where we're missing the chance to support each other. And she said, I 100% believe
well,
that
and
same
that's
thing.
and that's the thing is, I mean, okay, do we have, as our organization or pro-lifers, do we have underlying moral principles that we believe to be true? Yes, we think that abortion is wrong. We think it is objectively wrong to deliberately take the life of innocent human beings, even if that human being happens to have been conceived in an act of rape.
Mm-hmm.
We are committed to that principle. We are loving and forgiving and understanding and kind and reaching out, though, to people, not to principles.
Mm-hmm.
And so
that is the difference,
right. And so we are intolerant of a principle that you can kill unborn children, but we are loving to people who might be in a very difficult situation. And I think that's kind of the key way for us to think about it is, and maybe even to talk with that, this woman in this case, she's sort of talking about this based on experiences.
Yeah.
And saying, I don't know how I could tell a woman that she can't abort her child if she were to conceive and rape. And I get that. And it's not like it's easy, but it's also a thing where, we talked last time about, offering hope, and abortion is this very definitive ending of hope for the child.
Yep.
And so, presumably this woman's children are quite glad to be alive rather than not alive.
Well,
and
any
I think
person she's glad that
they're
alive.
And it's even from your conversation with her. I mean, it sounds like it's been difficult, but it sounds like she was glad. Yeah.
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 I don't know. It just left me pondering, what will it take for someone to only choose life?
Right.
Here's a person who has this situation and has two beautiful, healthy twins still on the fence. What is driving us to say, I can't stand for what is right?
Yeah, it's I think it's and I think part of it is, you can kind of see the impact of law even down to something like this. The fact that it's a legal possibility just makes people think, well, if they're right, it trickles all the way down to that level. Whereas if the economics of our society, the law of our society, whatever, we're oriented around, okay, women are facing these problems and unexpected pregnancies, rape, whatever. What resources can we offer them? What help can we give them instead of because that's the thing, so often with, what are the reasons people choose abortion? Lack of money, lack of support. Abortion's not fixing any of those underlying problems. It's just putting a Band-Aid on, this underlying festering cancer. And even in the case of, with sexual assault, it's not fixing the sexual assault. It's sort of putting a Band-Aid solution on the whole thing.
Well, I think it's like with any hard topic.
Yeah.
You have to, again, I'm going to go back to, you have to go to your what do you believe?
Right.
And
exactly.
why? You have to be able to say why.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Linda, for joining us again for Stories from the Sidewalk. And we will be right back with more on Right to Life Radio right after this break. rtlcc.org to learn more about Right to Life.